Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do the tests of the domain layer. So you create another layer on top of it, which is the domain test layer. So the main idea here is that one of the easy things, or one of the qualities of a test, is that you can test you can test the entity in isolation, and that's what I'm going to show you how you can do it. Basically, what happens is that you have these domain entities, and they are connected. But for instance, we have seen that we have activity. For instance, we can come here, and we have activity, and activity is connected with teams, with institution. Okay, so the problem is that when I want to test the code of activity, but can I test it ignoring the code of team and the code of institution? So can I test it in isolation? So that's what I'm gonna tell you how to do, and also I'm gonna show you that we can basically do a set of what strategy we follow in terms of what to test. And as you'll see, basically we're gonna do the tests driven by the invariants, okay, or the invariant violations. So let's see an example. So we're gonna use Spock, okay. We have these in Groovy. That's Spock is written in Groovy. So we have these domain tests, and I'm gonna test a particular method that is the create activity method. Okay, so the test I'm gonna test is this. So as you see, I want to test that when I execute this, I want to check if the object is okay. So basically, I'm gonna check if the invariants are okay. Okay. The first thing I want to show in this test is that basically we defined an abstract class, is Spock test, that contains a list of several utilities. I will talk more about it, but some of the utilities we're going to use now is, for instance, static values, static variables that contain values for days or for names. So we're going to reuse these in all. So instead of working with these constants, we have these static final attributes that we can use, and you can reuse in all the tests. So let's start. So what I'm going to do, basically, as we have seen, activity has relations with institution and teams. So, but I want to test it in isolation. So we're going to use this feature from Spock, which are the mocks. So I'm going to declare here an institution that actually does not exist. I'm mocking the institution. I'm going to declare a team that does not exist. I'm going to mock the team. And actually, I'm going to mock another activity. So I'm creating this activity and I'm mocking another one. You will realize why I'm going to do it. Okay? So in this test, I have my setup. In this case, in the setup, I'm going to create an activity DTO that has the values I want to set when I create the activity. So this activity DTO, as you see, so this is if you look at the constructor, so the constructor receives this activity DTO there, and of course receives an institution and a list of teams. That's why we mocked them. But of course, every test I'm going to do, we are going to execute, needs to set up this information. Look, and I'm using these constants I defined in the superclass. Now comes the interesting part. And the interesting part is, how do I record what should be the behavior of this of the entities and the institution. So these objects are around the activity, and during this execution of the creation, I'm going to interact with them, but they do not exist. So I'm going to tell them, or tell to the mocks, how they should pretend their behavior. So what I'm saying here, for instance, institution, is that if during the test I invoke the method getActivities in the mocked institution, the guy is going to return a list. So this is a way to represent a list in Groovy, a list of activities where I send only one value in this list, one element in the list. Actually, this element is also mocked, so it's a mocked activity. So what I'm saying here is that when I create this activity, the other activities that are already created is only one. So this institution has another. So I'm creating the second activity of the institution. And if inside the code I invoke the get name of the other activity, it returns this name. Okay, good. Another thing is that I have the team, and if in the team I invoke getState, I'm telling the mock, hey, please return approved. Okay, and I've defined my list of teams is just one team. So I'm gonna create an activity that has these values, is gonna be associated with this institution and with this team. So that's the teams I'm sending there. And when this executes, I expect at the end that my object, so the object that the activity that was created, has the correct values. So, and these values actually were the values that I just put there. And everything was okay. And I will return to this in the end. Okay. But let's see how does it work. So what I'm going to do, I actually, if you remember, I have this invariant. So we need to check the invariant. So at the end of the method, I check the invariant. So I'm check that the name is required. So in this case, it's not gonna be a problem because I'm providing a name. Okay, but there are some cases that are more interesting. For instance, here I have that. For instance, let me show you one. Is that, for instance, this one, name is unique. So what I'm going to do in this invariant, I go to institution and say, give me all your activities. And I try to see if the activities have a name different from the name I'm trying. So because the name is unique, okay? So what happens? What I did, basically, I said that I recorded that when I when I invoke getActivities, it returns another activity. So I'm going to invoke here getActivities. So what is going to return? What I recorded there in the mock. And then for each one of them, I'm going to invoke getName. That's only one. And which name is going to return? Activity 2. So activity name 2 is different from activity name 1. So yeah, this invariant is not going to be violated. Okay. And the same for the recording of the team that has the state approved, because if you look at the invariants, I'm going to verify that all the teams, if some team is different from approved, I'm gonna throw an exception. But of course, I recorded it to be approved. Okay. So finally, I do these verifications. This verification is not sometimes is interesting. So what I'm verifying here is that, and is this activity going to be added in the institution and in the team? So what I'm saying is that I want to check whether institution receives an invocation to say add. Add what? Well, I use this, the underscore, to say I don't care. But I could be more specific. I could actually put this activity there. But, okay, I don't need to be so strict. So what I'm saying is that I expect that in institution, this method is invoked. And what does this method do? Goes to the list of the activities in the institution and add the activity. So that's what I'm checking there. If this does not happen, just the test fails. Okay? So this is a success case. So what is your strategy? You just define a test for success. Sometimes you need to do a little variation of values, but a variation in the input values, but sometimes it's not necessary. And then you go for each one of the violations of the invariants. In this case, we define the test to violate the unique name invariant, unique region, and description. What are we going to use? We're going to use these where, because it's easier to write and it's very easy to read. And these are local names that I'm going to use in the setup. So I'm going to define a DTO. So the DTO is going to be given to the creation of the activity. And in this DTO, basically, I'm gonna, depending, so each line is a different test. So in the first one, in this DTO, the name is null. And the other ones are okay. So region as a correct number and description as a correct value and description as well. So when I invoke this line, I expect that it returns this error. So that's what I'm checking there. Okay. Then that's another one. So here it is the combinations. So then there's another one, and this is basically I try to check if the 1 to 5 participants invariant is violated. And I do something very similar where basically I test with variations of values. So I test with -5, 0, 6, and 10, and expect all these to fail. Okay. And then in this one, I check what is the behavior when I try to violate that all the dates are required, and I do similar thing there. Then this is very interesting. This is I try to violate the invariant related with that deadline is before starting and starting is before end, and I do some combinations here where I violate, and I try to check to guarantee that the behavior of the implementation is correct in the sense that these exceptions are thrown. Okay? And then I have the team status. So in the team status, I told you that I only can create an activity if all the teams are approved. I have only one team, so I just send one team here. Okay. So, but this team, now when I record what the mock should answer, when I ask him get me your state, now it's a variable that is in the table, so it can return when it returns deleted or submitted. I expect that this exception is thrown, so I expect this exception to be thrown. And very similar to the unique name. Okay. In this case, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create the DTO with this name, and the other activity has the same name. So if it has the same name, I expect this error to be thrown. Okay, good, that's it.